It's currently wishlist week for me for Planet Zoo 2. I will be posting a single wishlist item every single day on my TikTok, Instagram, as well as YouTube account, so be sure to follow me on those. However, they are all going to link back to this master video. Welcome to my ultimate Planet Zoo 2 wishlist. My name is Leaf. I am a huge zoo enthusiast. I've been to over 60 zoos in my life, and I cannot wait to tell you what I want out of my future zoo game over here. Planet Zoo has been one of my favorite games of all time, possibly even my ultimate favorite for what it's been able to do for me. I've been able to meet some incredible people through it. I've even gone to a few zoos because of Planet Zoo. So needless to say, I am a little invested in what this sequel has in store for us. But what do I want to see as not only a zoo enthusiast, but also a guy who just loves playing Planet Zoo? We have our big basic things. We have our big wants out of this game. I know everyone wants the big three, which I kind of coin as scaling, better paths, as well as a scenery brush. The big three are pretty much a given, seeing how they were also included in Planet Coaster 2, which runs on pretty much the same engine as Planet Zoo. These are features that people have been requesting for quite some time. I even made a video before saying how the Planet Zoo path system isn't bad, you're just bad at the game. No, I fully retract that statement. Planet Coaster 2's pathing is infinitely better because not only can you do these big open plazas without having any issues whatsoever, but you can also do custom bridges with invisible paths. You can just do so much with these. And not just stuff that Planet Coaster 2 brought as well, we also have been hearing countless times from the community, oh, we want aviaries, we want fish, but never really too much beyond that. Today is the deepest of deep dives, where I'm going to talk about pretty much every single aspect of what I can expect out of this sequel and what I really want out of it as well. If you're new to the channel, welcome. I get very passionate about this stuff, so I'm sorry if I'm coming off a little too strong. Alright, let's talk with something easy. Let's talk about staff members. Staff members in Planet Zoo, they work great. You know, we have a couple of staff members like the zookeeper, which is just the keeper. We have the veterinarians. We have the cleaners, or I forget what they're called. They're not janitors. You see, I'm already forgetting the names of these folks. I also have the education staff, and we also have maintenance workers. All of these are great, and all of these are very important to a real-life zoo. It's so important to have a separate veterinary team, which is completely different from the day-to-day operations of the keepers in most facilities. Veterinarians are supposed to have a kind of well-versed view on specific animals from a top-level view, so that if they come in for a routine surgery or a routine checkup, they're going to know how to handle these kinds of animals. Meanwhile, keepers are a lot more of the day-to-day operations. They're, of course, not as well paid as the vets. Believe me, I have played franchise mode. I know how expensive those vets can get. However, even in real life, you get keepers who are specifically versed in specific kinds of animals. You might even know a keeper in real life who prefers to work with birds or who prefers to work with hoofstock. What I would like to see out of this game, out of this sequel, really, is going to be a little bit more of an emphasis on that and just a little bit more of a play into real life where certain keepers that you can hire, and I would love like a completely new hiring screen, where these certain keepers that you hire have certain dynamic boosts when it comes to certain animals. We've all played franchise mode, have we not? We've always started with a little bit more of the basic animals. Let's just say birds, for example. Flamingos, peafowl, ostrich, they're all the relatively cheap animals in Planet Zoo. They all kind of get you started off a zoo super easily, right? What I would love to see are certain keepers that you can hire that have these little boosts working with specific animals. Say, for example, if you start a brand new franchise mode, I would love it if certain keepers that you have the potential to hire have certain boosts in these departments, such as avians, like peafowl, emu, ostrich, whatever other birds we currently have in game. This is not only reflective of real life, which I think is super important when it does come to Planet Zoo, but it's also important in providing the user who is playing the game, who's providing the gamer. Typically, when you are playing a management game, you want to be as min-maxing as possible. That's why we have so many puppy farms in this game. But I think this would be great. It would also force the user to set up work work zones that are somewhat close to each other, which is kind of how zoos operate in real life. If you've ever been to one recently, you'll kind of find that all of the hoofstock are in a certain area, all the birds are in a certain area. You might have some outliers here and there where it's like an aviary in the middle of a greater themed section, but for the most part, birdhouses typically have exhibits both on the inside and the outside because that's where all the keepers congregate. That's where all of the prep stations for that work is. Kind of how Planet Zoo kind of wants you to make those staffing areas, but instead all the staff members and all the keepers are just jack of all trades. It's such a minor change. It is so silly, and honestly, I can see how it could be frustrating for some people, but in terms of showing how a real zoo operates and showing how, I don't know, I just like a little extra challenge in there, a little extra balancing act. Still staying on track with keepers, staff, educators, I really want to harp in the educators as well. In real life, you typically get these staff members who are known as docents. They're not even staff members. Most of the time, they're volunteers. These are typically people who are more than likely retired or more than likely just out of work, and they want to do something with their lives. So you typically get these older adults, which is fantastic, by the way. Absolutely love this. You typically get them volunteering at the zoo, just standing outside of exhibits, telling the people about these animals, or even just helping visitors around the zoo. I would love this. Like, this to me is so important for the zoo experience, because you think about zoos, you think about animals, but you never really think about people, and we'll get to guests in a little bit too, but I really do see the value in having just extra work for people who might be retired, who might be out of work or something, and they just want something else to do. I know it's very silly, and this kind of already is played by the part of the educator, but I would just love if you could just, the more popular your zoo is, for example, the more opportunities for volunteers you have, and the more staff capabilities that you can put to your education stands and outside of exhibits so your guests can learn more, so that you could boost education in your zoo. Like, this is just all snowballing up, and I think that would be so good because Planet Zoo should reward you for being a good zoo. Now, that's really it when it comes to staff members. If you want to watch another great series on Planet Zoo 2 speculation, I highly recommend my good friend Eben's videos over here. This is his Road to Planet Zoo series. He recently talked about staff transportation. I'm not going to give away everything on there, but please go check that out if you're hoping to hear a little bit more on the carts and bike system that I think would be a fantastic addition here. Now, Planet Zoo is all about the animals, but I'm not going to go into the realm of new animals first. I want to talk about older animals, specifically the older animals. I've played Planet Zoo ever since the beta release, and with that, we had a handful of animals, and a lot of these animals, they don't really look the best by nowadays. And of course, the Planet Zoo team has always been cycling, has always been working on finding a consistent art style with the game. It is kind of difficult when you have peeps who look relatively cartoonish, which I love, by the way. Please do not change that. But you also have these super high fidelity, super high detailed models right next to them, or at least for the most part. Yes, if you've been following Planet Zoo news as of late, and the last DLC cycles, really, ever since kind of like Wetlands Pack, you'll notice that all of the animals that we've had in recent years have been so high quality. Like, they look very, very good. They still have a little bit of that Planet Zoo charm about them, which I think is super important because we're not making photorealistic animals for like a CGI nature documentary over here. We're making Planet Zoo. It's a video game at the end of the day. You have to find the balancing act of a charismatic looking animal and what is actually real life, because I don't know. We can get into the whole debate on anthropomorphizing animals and stuff like that and making them feel like they're a lot more human than they're really made out to be, but at the end of the day, newer DLC Planet Zoo animals look a lot better than what they first started off with. I don't need much. I really don't. I would just love some visual upgrades to some specific older animals, and even some of them still relatively hold up, like the Nile Monitor and Komodo Dragon both look really good. Their reptile division is just really good, probably because they work so much on JWE and that's just full of a bunch of big lizards, am I right? But no, I'm talking about a lot more of their older animals, like the Himalayan brown bear, which doesn't even look like a Himalayan brown bear. I mean, just look at these things. Even if you want to just look at the Planet Zoo Nexus, that is where all the modders upload their mods and where everyone downloads them. You can sort them by popularity, and the remaster mods always come out on top. And would you believe that the West African Lion remaster is the most downloaded remaster? Of course you can. I mean, just look at this old thing. Yes, I would love to see remasters for every single animal in this game. However, I am keeping in mind their recent trend with Jurassic World Evolution 3, where Frontier typically releases a new remastered family unit of animals every so often. I believe recently we just had the Amargasaurus, which looked beautiful, by the way. And yeah, I could see something like that where if we get something kind of like a South America adjacent pack, so let's just say, for example, we get the Amazon pack for Planet Zoo 2, I could absolutely see them saying, listen, we know the Jaguar was not in the base game, but we updated it with a brand new coat of paint and it looks even better now. For example, like that would just be great to me. Would I love to have every single animal available from the start? Absolutely. However, I like to think a little bit more realistically. I like to tape here my expectations a little bit. And I'm not gonna say that I expect to have every single animal day one base game, all DLCs from Planet Zoo 1 in a Planet Zoo 2. That to me, I don't think will happen. However, over time, I do absolutely see Frontier adding, I would say, the entire roster to the base game as free updates. I don't see them making you pay for the same animals that you paid for in Planet Zoo 1, even though it is a completely new game. I don't know. It's very confusing. But that's really it for the animal changes. Besides that, that's really mostly visual. I would love to see some behavioral changes as well, just really emphasizing how an animal would behave in a zoo. For example, animals can often be housed together. I recently went to a couple zoos where I had a couple separate species in the same habitats together, and they would actually play together or kind of like interact with each other. That to me is just so cool. So I would love to see a little bit more dynamic kind of intra-species and interspecies interactions. Just seeing animals come more alive, interact not only with their environment, but also each other would be such an improvement to the game. Right now, I do see animals relatively as props. I am what is known as a builder in the community. I'm not really kind of like invested in storylines or anything yet. Maybe that can change. But I guess the reason is the animals in Planet Zoo just don't feel realistic enough in terms of behavior. Not only visual, but behavior as well. So I would love to see some changes when it comes to that. All right, that is it for our first kind of foyer into animals. I want to talk about core game updates though. All right, so what do I mean core game updates? Well, the basic cycle of Planet Zoo, especially in franchise or even sandbox mode, is you build a zoo, you build an exhibit, you build for the animal, you make some money, you make some improvements, you make some guest facilities, and the cycle repeats and repeats and repeats until you either finish the zoo or you run out of map space. That's all great. Like, that's neat. But I would love to have some smaller changes within the game that really help reflect not only realistic zoos, but also help the experience of the player as well. I'm thinking stuff like education, backstages, and welfare dependency. That's what I wrote out. I'm gonna explain that a little bit better. Okay, so what I mean by that, if you've been to a zoo recently, if you've been to a good zoo recently, you might notice you can actually look in the backstage at certain points. Especially, this is true when it comes to reptile houses, when it comes to small mammal houses, even insect houses and stuff like that. Zoos with good welfare, with good keeping teams, and with confidence that what they're doing and what they're showing the public is reflective of good animal welfare, they are not going to shy away and hide their facilities. That is why I would love to see a change within the game where the greater your animal happiness is, the less that backstage buildings will impact guests, and actually they would provide a little bit more of a positive experience for the guest more than anything else. These are always my favorite things to see in zoos. I am not kidding. I love seeing the clipboards on the back that say what the animal's food schedule is like, what they're eating that day. That to me makes me know that what I am supporting when I buy my zoo ticket is going to a great place that has their animals first and foremost. It is just something small like that, where it is just a small mechanic of the game that is, again, reflective of real life zoos that is so important to me that I would love to see. And that to me is just such a nice gameplay loop where you're incentivized to care about your animals, to give them a good experience, because not only does it make them feel better, but it also helps your your dollar by having this zoo have more education, and thereby more guests will come to visit. Beyond that, I actually just watched a Planet Zoo 2 speculation video by a brand new up-and-coming creator. This video is by Brioche Builds, and this perfectly encapsulated one of my biggest issues with Planet Coaster 2, actually, that I really hope Planet Zoo 2 will be able to fix, and that to me is the selection system. Yes, I know, my builder is coming out, guys, I'm sorry, but one of my important things when it comes to making a habitat or making a zoo in Planet Zoo is how efficiently I'm able to do that. And because of that, the tools in terms of selection, in terms of FlexiColor, that is so important to me to be able to wrangle and really use to my advantage in order to make a zoo as fast as I can, but also as great as I can. She has some really great points in her video, but one of the ones that I personally find super important is the select by color function, which is great in Planet Zoo. This basically allows you to essentially FlexiColor multiple items at once within a single FlexiColor channel. So if you're doing a relatively detailed build and only certain parts of it are colored a certain way and it just looks a little bit off, you can change that to a different value. That's great. However, you can't change anything else. You can't change the placement of it. You can't even go into advanced edit mode with it. That to me would just be such an awesome tiny little tick box that they could just enable, I assume, I hope. I don't know. I'm not a coder. I don't know how it works. But for all other points, please, I refer you to her incredible video, Planet Zoo 2, 10 small quality of life features that she wants to see. Really do recommend it. And finally, my last kind of like overall core game update, I would say, would be the Planet Zoo Workshop refurbishment. My friends who have played Jurassic World Evolution 3 or Planet Coaster 2, you're familiar with how Frontier's workshop system works. I would say it's an improvement over Steam Workshop, however, I would be lying. I am so sorry, Frontier. To me, what I love about the Steam Workshop is it allows the player, it allows the creator, really, because whenever you do upload something to the workshop, you are a creator. You put something out there for other people to use or look at or watch. Steam Workshop basically allows you to cultivate your own page, to detail it however you want. I've looked at some incredible Steam Workshop pages that are fully outfitted with really awesome graphics, with really great designs, and even the collection system for Steam works so well. Because not only can you just search up anything on Steam, you can also search for multiple things at a time through the collection system. These are groups where people have organized, cultivated these really awesome lists of like realistic zoo props, for example, and you can just hit one subscribe button and it subscribes you to all the content within that collection. There's currently nothing like that in Jurassic World Evolution 3 or Planet Coaster 2's workshop, and that to me would just be so important because I put out a lot of content on the workshop. I put out like a lot of smaller blueprints that don't necessarily fit into a greater collection, but I'm sure that if someone is looking to make a kind of realistic zoo building set or something like that in a potential Planet Zoo 2, they'd be able just to organize them all into one group and hit subscribe, and that way everyone can have access to the same list. I think that would be a fantastic upgrade because currently as it stands, the Frontier Workshop is not my favorite thing in the world. Alright, that is it for core game updates. I'm yapping a lot today, y'all. I'm sorry, but we are getting into what makes those blueprints possible. We are going to talk about building pieces and scenery. Now, let's talk about this, because this is the elephant statue number 2 in the room. We will not get every single scenery piece that appeared in Planet Zoo 1 in Planet Zoo 2. We saw this with Planet Coaster 2, where they decided to launch a game that had pools without a pirate theme. How does that make sense? No, so this part is going to be split into 2 different sections. What themes I want to make a return in Planet Zoo 2, and what themes, or items really, I would like to see added on top of that. I think it's a given that we're going to get the classic set. I think that is really just a given because you need to make like that big classic European style zoo with like your limestone everywhere, your red bricks, and even I expect those to be FlexiColor, by the way. But beyond that, I think Planet Zoo 1 had some incredible themes that we are just not ready to give up yet, not only because those themes were super flexible in terms of what we were able to do with them, but because you can't make a zoo without certain items. Okay, you can feel free to debate me and say, oh, but my local zoo doesn't have an Africa section. I don't care. Like, every major zoo in the world has an Africa section, and because of that, I think it's super important, and I think it would be necessary, actually, to not only take the Africa set from base game and, slap a couple extra pieces on it, give it a fresh coat of paint, but also combine it with the North Africa set, because everyone loves that one from the Africa pack, and just make one big, giant Africa set for us to use as scenery. I think the only pieces that people won't really want in there are the giant meerkat statues, which are their own problem. Those are terrifying. I think one actually appeared as my sleep paralysis demon one night. It was kind of scary. Still though, I think a set like that would be super important, and I could, give up the East Asia set with the big torii gates and whatever. That's fine. I don't necessarily need that, but I would love to see an alternative to that being the Indonesia set. I think we all absolutely love the Indonesia set for what it brings to the table. It has some incredible wood pieces and has some incredible stone pieces that not only function for a Asian style build or, just an Indonesian tropical style build, but these pieces are so versatile that people use them for anything. You can use them in a North America set. You can use them in a classic set. You can even use these in an African set. It really does not matter because these pieces are some of the absolute best that Frontier has ever given us. They have incredible flexi-color channels. They have incredible function outside of what their given theme is. And that's what I think is such an important part of how Frontier is going to select the pieces and themes that they bring to the table. And yeah, we can talk about North America. I would love to see that expanded upon. I would love for them to ditch that whole modern aesthetic. I think it's just very grand thinking, but it's just very boring execution for me personally. I would say embrace the rusticness of North America zones. I've typically found, especially as a North American who goes to a lot of zoos with North American themes and Canadian themes and stuff like that, you're going to find a lot more rustic, a lot more softer wood. You're going to find a lot more kind of leaf litter and stuff like that. You're going to find a lot more dilapidated log cabins. You're going to find these old giant rustic stones. I would love to see that because all of those pieces I mentioned, all of those kind of materials, all those kinds of colors, those are going to be so useful outside of their given area. And I think that is so important for a Frontier to kind of recognize when they are going about and selecting themes, selecting pieces, designing these objects, really, is to say, this works super well for this theme, but can I make another theme with it? And that to me is so important. If you combine things or if you change the color of them, can you make something look like something else? And that to me is super important. And that kind of bleeds me into talking about new items altogether. I guess I kind of just strategized a brand new North America theme, but I would still love those modern pieces, don't get me wrong. But new pieces altogether, I would love to see all of the Jurassic World Evolution 3 decals. You have some incredible pieces in here, Frontier. And listen, I know you guys are listening because you guys added that goddamn leopard hanging animation. Oh, I love you guys. No, I would love to see every single one of those decals, from the road signs to just the weird grunge and the rust and all of the dirt, even those puddles. Those puddles look so good. I need them. I need it to make it look like someone peed themselves in my custom bathroom. Come on, Frontier, make it flexi color. No, Jurassic World Evolution 3 has some incredible pieces in that game. Please go check that out if you haven't yet. I just can't build with it because they haven't fixed my goddamn search button. But beyond that, I would love to see a bunch of brand new pieces too. I'm thinking about the Planet Coaster 2 custom billboard sizes. I think they added a bunch of circle ones and a bunch of abnormal shapes too, which would be super useful, especially since modern zoo signage really is just a lot more colorful and a lot more playful than just your simple rectangle plaques and stuff like that nowadays. I still love those, and please don't take away my rectangles, but yes, custom billboard sizes, even though I don't really use billboards too much anymore, I don't know. I think other people would love those. Beyond that, I would also love to see mud wallows, actual kind of placeable mud pieces where the animals can kind of interact. My biggest issue with the enrichment, and this is also kind of harping into enrichment too, all natural enrichment, please. But my biggest issue with the enrichment is it has such a big footprint and it's not really doing much when you're putting it in a habitat. I would love to see like, you know, those forage boxes. It's so big. I would love to see smaller versions, or at least like small placeable things where it's not going to impact the greater kind of like terrain around it. I would love to see just tiny ones where you can say, oh, can a keeper just throw a lamb shank right under this bundle of leaves? That to me would be so awesome. And of course, I would love to see more options for realistic fencing. People in the past, including myself, have done stuff along the lines of piano wire, which is the long, tall fencing that you typically get with birds. Those are super common in zoos, and you also see those with big cats too. And speaking of birds, just aviary pieces. Can we get netting? Can we just get like more mesh types? Like the more stuff that you're able to give us, Frontier, the better. Variety at the end of the day is the spice of life, and being able to make these giant custom sets. I'm thinking of Miss Miyaski's, I'm not sure how I pronounce her name, but they have some incredible sets for every single DLC you can get on the Steam Workshop. And because of that, I would love to see just more varieties of these items being added, even with every single update. Like, these are just simple textures on a simple mesh. Like, that to me, and granted, I'm only coming at this from a modder's perspective. I know there's like translations and stuff that need to be added, and like, you know, quality of life and UI and all that stuff. But that to me would just be a bunch of like really easy pieces that can be thrown in at the end of the DLC, or like with the free update or something like that, that would just make the entire world go crazy. Really just small bullshit. And in terms of other objects, I don't know. I guess the null editable signs from Planet Coaster 2 were very cool. All right, we are not into kind of like, you know, the big scary topic of aviaries and aquariums just yet. I want to talk about facilities because I'm delaying that conversation. The facilities in Planet Zoo are already great. I love them. I love the fact that we have some great ones like the information kiosks, restaurants that you can actually dine in at. You also have the gift shops, which all work super well. Obviously, I would love to see the Planet Coaster 2 upgrade of all of these, where you don't need to place them on those stupid tiles. Believe me, if you watch that tutorial video where I put them on top of a path, I am so sorry. I had free build on. I'm sorry. You see, that is a headache that would just be completely avoided if they adopted the Planet Coaster 2 style of those gift shops. That'd be awesome. And also the restaurants in Planet Coaster 2. They work out super great too. However, there is a big glaring omission from all of these. You have your dining, you have your shopping, but you don't have your sleeping. Again, another incredible video from Eben's Wed. Please go check this one out, especially because he's able to put it into so much better perspective than I am. But zoos in real life, they require a lot of money. Even zoos in Planet Zoo require a lot of money. And because of that, zoos often look for ways on how to fully maximize their profits and fully maximize the kind of potential that they have in terms of kind of quote unquote selling the space. That's why oftentimes nowadays you see a lot of bigger zoos selling hotel rooms and just saying, oh, come sleep at the zoo. You can get a good view of the polar bear. You can get a good view of the walrus. I know, I'm talking about Paradisa. I might go this year. I'm very excited. I really, really, really want to go. I'm just very excited about it. Not only Paradisa though, but even your local zoo might actually open this up to the public. If you're from Kansas, you might be familiar with the Tanganyika Wildlife Park. Yeah, never force me at gunpoint to say that ever again. But not only that, but San Antonio Zoo. For all of my yeehaw Texans out there. Even for my friends across the pond, you guys have Whipsnade Zoo and London Zoo, which have little huts in them. Even for my friends in Asia, you guys also have the Mandai Rainforest Resort, which is at the Singapore Wildlife Reserve. Like, that is insane. And it's not just a local thing, like America only. This is happening around the world, where zoos are capitalizing on people's love for animals and saying, you know what? Sleep with them. Wait, no, not like that. Hotels to me are just such an important facility not to include in the game, because at the end of the day, this is just such an important part of how zoos are operating in the modern day and how they're making their money in order to best sustain their animals' welfare as well as the guests' welfare. So this would just be top of my list, honestly. In addition to that, I would also love to see smaller facilities. I'm thinking along the lines of like balloon vendors, maybe not balloons because balloons are bad. I'm thinking about like candy cane candy cane popcorn vendors. Why did I say candy cane? Even stuff like elevators, which could just be, I've made this concept before, it's just a simple, you walk into this black box and then it brings you up to the one on top and then you just cover the middle of it with whatever. That to me would be so awesome because unfortunately, and this is very big sad, representation in video games really isn't the best. Sometimes you do get some decent representation, but at the end of the day, there are some people who aren't really as able-bodied as others who do rely on these modes of transportation to get around zoos, basically. And the fact that Frontier hasn't added something like this, it just breaks my heart just a little bit. Plus, I don't know, I like the idea of a big vertical zoo or a big vertical building where you're kind of traversing this landscape. But I also love the idea of making that for someone who might not be able to easily get around as well. Also, I'm thinking stuff like damn strollers. Like, you try lugging one of those up a set of stairs. I mean, come on. And finally, my last thing in terms of facilities, that's going to be the transportation rides. Right now, I hate using them. I love them in real life, though. Do not get me wrong. Set me on a good boat ride, like at the Naples Zoo, I am all set. Like, that just makes my entire week. If I can go around and look at some silly monkeys and say, you know what, kumbaya, it was a good day because I saw a Siamang. No, I love seeing these in real life, but in Planet Zoo, these buildings, they are just not the best looking. The monorail, it's fine, but I would love alternative styles of these. I would love to see much more simpler ones, especially for stuff like the boat. It looks so super themed, which is nice, but look at real zoos in real life and you get this very, very industrial, very practical, I would say, piece of equipment. And that's really where it should start. I would say give the option for the end user, for the player, to decorate their boats however they want, but still at the bare minimum, just give a very simple looking boat. Give us a couple flexi-color options and that's it. And of course, the gondola, just get rid of that damn thing. That's bad. I do not like that. Just get chairlift, like a simple chairlift. Zoos have those all the time. And finally, in terms of other rides, I would love to see just two simple ones, nothing crazy. I would love to see a simple merry-go-round, carousel, and I would love to see a simple Ferris wheel. Both are very prominent in zoos. I have a couple around me that even have carousels within the zoo, or, sometimes on the outside of the zoo, but still. Think about how zoos are supposed to make money when the guest has already seen all their animals. Just think about ways in terms of enticing the guests to spend a lot more money, and rides are typically good for that. Okay, let's get into animals. Let's talk about the elephant bird in the room. Aviaries are the first thing that I want to discuss today. This is going to be a lot less, put together than before because I have reached the end of my script and I just wanted to sit down and record, so welcome everyone. Aviaries are super important in zoos. A lot of zoos that you might know, even my local Southwick Zoo, started off as a specific bird park, and it slowly evolved over time to become the zoo that it is today. I don't want to discredit the work of keepers, but birds are relatively a little bit easier to take care of than your big charismatic animals like elephants, tigers, lions, etc., etc. They don't require much space, they don't require that much nourishment in terms of the cost of the food. They're not eating like a 5-pound steak every day. Typically, these are animals that every zoo has, and because of that, I really don't see a future where Planet Zoo doesn't include birds. The writing's on the wall, we are all being very vocal about it in the community, and if we look at some of their previous birds from the last DLCs, especially the Great Araya and the American Flamingo, yeah, those look too good for them just to be throwing stuff out at the end of the game. So, aviaries, birds, would they function as they would, as we've seen with the bats? Or would they function a little bit more like a habitat animal or something along the lines of a Jurassic World Evolution 3 style aviary? To be honest, I don't really care at this point. I'm fine if they're kind of like cycled animations, because at the end of the day, I just see animals as props. I know, it's so sad. Obviously, it would be great if they could function as habitat animals, and even better if you could actually link them in the same habitat as terrestrial animals. Some of my favorite exhibits at zoos are big tropical houses, and because of that, you often get mammals kind of roaming the floor or kind of climbing above you, like primates, like golden lion tamarins. And not only that, but you also get birds flying all over the place. Yes, I would love it if it happened like this, but again, as I said before, with expecting every single animal in the game, I'm not expecting a system like this to happen. I just don't see it. But Frontier is welcome to prove me wrong. However, I don't want to talk logistics today. I want to talk about specifically animals. And what animals I'm talking about today are groups. Yep, we are getting down and dirty with this. We are talking about what specific animals I would want if Frontier did decide to add birds. Birds open up a whole can of worms, and like they say, the early bird gets the worm. This is what happens when I don't write a script. At least I know what I'm talking about. It is so important to know what animals you're going into this game with, and because of that, the choices for the start of the game are gonna matter most. We don't want another Himalayan brown bear situation. I think it's super important to include animals that are versatile, not only in terms of how they look, how they act, but also where they're found. I'm going to talk about owls first, because I absolutely love seeing owls in zoos. They're not really the most active things in the world, but they do have that charisma about them. I don't know, they're adorable. In terms of owls, for the game to start off with, I would love to see great horned owl, European eagle owl, or barn owl. Any combination of the three would be fine by me. Barn owls are found all over the world, and they're found pretty much in almost every single zoo I've been to. They're a super charismatic species, and listen, I'm a Guardians of Ga'Hoole girly. I'm just partial to them. But also the other two species that I mentioned as well, great horned owls and European eagle owls, both greater owls, I would say, bigger owls, both represent really different areas of the world. Great horned owls, of course, are North American, and European eagle owls kind of represent kind of Eurasia, if that makes sense. I do think that those areas of the world need just a little bit of help in terms of the species roster. I don't really need an African owl, though the white-faced scops owl would be a neat choice. I do think that the game does need owls to start off with, because you're going to get people wondering where the hell are all the owls. I do think it'd be important to kind of prioritize at least two to start off with. Now let's move on to our parrots, or psittaciforms. These animals are super charismatic, and they are exactly what you think of when I say bird. At least I hope. There's probably one freak out there who's thinking American woodcock, and listen, big ups to you, buddy. I respect. But of course, the parrot, or macaw, at the end of the day, is going to be one of the most important animals that we get in a potential aviary update for Planet Zoo 2. Frontier can go a million different ways with what animal choices they go with, and of course we had some recent choices in recent times, like the Saiga, where the animals really aren't too common in captivity. I think it's so important to include animals that are from everyone's kind of local area, or still giving a little bit of representation to an underrated species. And here's where it gets a little tricky, because I do think scarlet macaw is a must. Tons of zoos, wildlife parks, and everything else around the world has scarlet macaw, or at the very least, green-winged macaw. They're kind of like the less cooler brother. But also with scarlet macaw, I think you would also need to have blue and gold macaw just to make the colors pop against each other. I think both would need to go hand in hand. Plus, I think if this is a base game animal, it would be kind of ridiculous to also sell another macaw that is a relatively common macaw. I'm thinking like your typical blue-throated macaw, or your military macaw even. Hell, I would hate to say it, but I need all of the macaws to start off with. You just need all of them together, Frontier, please. Don't break up the family. However, these psittaciforms include a bunch of other birds as well, and I think there are some really awesome potential animals in here. Not just base game, but I'm thinking like, oh man, what if they do DLCs? Burrowing parrot is a particularly popular animal in zoos, maybe not in terms of numbers, but definitely in terms of representation at the larger facilities. They're a relatively important animal in the kind of zoological field because they were endangered at one point, and zoos have been working tirelessly to kind of get their populations back up. I think a smaller parrot as well, like the Amazon, would be an incredible animal to have in here, because your big macaws, they're great, but also you need some smaller ones out there to kind of balance it out. And finally, I would say something along the lines of budgies and cockatiels and lorikeets, something like that. But I could absolutely see those being part of like an Australian expansion. Like that would just be cool to me. I don't know. In terms of other birds of prey, oh man, there's We got a long list to get through, guys. I'm gonna try and go rapid fire through here because I do think all of these categories need proper representation, but we're just gonna go through it. Bald eagle, I don't think should be base game. I think that absolutely should be reserved for a North American pack. I mean, that just being the logo over there, oh baby. But birds of prey, I would love to see African fish eagle personally. I think they're such a beautiful species. I just love them. I don't know, they're very cool. But not only that, but I'm thinking about vultures as well. They are found pretty much everywhere. I think Ruppel's griffin vulture is one of the most famous ones that you'll typically find in zoos. So I think something like that, and maybe like a palm nut vulture would be pretty neat. Maybe black vulture if you want to appeal to the more Americans, or turkey vulture even. There's so many different options that you could go with these, but I do think it's important to at least give vultures some more representation. Corvidae is the group of crows, ravens, and stuff like that. Very interesting group of animals over here. I think white-necked raven would be necessary, personally, just because I think they are a very cool species. That's really it. Doves are a super, super important group of animals too. They come in so many different colors, but I think at the end of the day, I would absolutely love to see bleeding heart dove. There's a whole bunch of different kinds. Pick your poison. Okay, I'm gonna probably get a little bit of flack for this one too, but I am thinking about ducks. I need more ducks. I need ducks that can fly. I need ducks that can swim. Any kind of duck, really. I don't need mallard, believe it or not. I really don't. But no, I would love to see something along the lines of like maybe a mandarin duck, or even white-cheeked pintail. That's a relatively popular duck that you'll find in zoos because of its long range across South America and even some parts of North America as well. I think that's a super versatile duck that we could have in there that would just be fantastic. And yeah, finally, I just think we need more flying bullshit. Like, there's really no way to say it other than that without going into an hour-long video just on birds alone, but I need different kinds of sparrows. I really need different kinds of stuff to fill up a tropical house, and typically in these tropical houses, you get starlings, you get weavers, just a whole bunch of those different animals that we could get in here, and I think it's so important to recognize that tropical houses and these bird houses, it's not just a one-and-done deal where you can have an entire section themed around a lion and that's it. The real beauty of these sections and the real appeal of these is because you can make a area so compact with so many different species, and I think that's going to be kind of the balancing game that Frontier is going to really need to figure out in terms of how they roll out species if we do get birds after all. But yeah, it's going to be tough. And don't even get me started on aquariums. Like, I don't think we're getting aquariums first and foremost. How are you going to balance this all? How are you going to balance how many animals get allocated where? Fish, like even more than birds, rely on big numbers. You have entire aquarium sections where you have over like 10 different species of cichlid in a single tank. No, I am thinking about aquariums from a traditional standpoint where it's like you have your big Indo-Pacific reef tank, and in those tanks you have at least 20 different species of animal. I think it's so difficult to really talk about my wants out of this, but rather I can kind of talk about areas of focus that I would personally love to see. I would love to see a huge representation of freshwater species personally. I'm very much invested in like the Amazon life cycle and kind of like what lives beneath the waters over there, and I think that would pair super well with like all the current species that we currently have in game, like giant otter. Like, that would be so cool to have an aquarium right next to the giant otter. But first of all, we need to get aquariums. But if you guys want to hear me yap more about fish later, that's fine. I think I'm done for today. This was already a long enough video. I just wanted to sit back and kind of talk about my thoughts on a Planet Zoo 2 and the features that I would come to expect out of it. I really care a lot more about the day-to-day playing of the game and kind of what that would be like and how that would feel to me, instead of what animals we're gonna get, because at the end of the day, I am a PC player. Like, I don't know if that's apparent or not, and I am a modder if that's apparent or not. I can always add in animals that are not currently in the game, but I'm also looking out for the console players out there who might not have that same robust library, so I'm always happy to be an advocate for helping you guys get the species that you want to. But this video was pretty damn long. I'm looking at the time over here. Let me know what you guys want most in Planet Zoo. Do you agree with anything that I put into this video? Because I'm sure this is going to be someone's podcast and you're just wrapping it up right now. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really can't wait to see the reaction to like all the shorts and stuff like that going forward. But yeah, these were just my thoughts, splat down on paper, hopefully in an entertaining way. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. Take care, and bye-bye.